15 Meanest Villains in Valiant Comic. Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. We may be unfamiliar with the third greatest superhero universe in an age when Marvel and DC, the two largest comic book universes, have demonstrated the vast marketability of the superhero genre. Yes, we are talking about Valiant Comics. One reason for Valiant's popularity is its incredibly magnificent heroes, but as we know, no great tale has ever been made with just a wonderful hero. To make a story stand out, you also need an equally dangerous villain, if not more. Some of Valiant's villains pay tribute to pulps from the early 20th century, while others are shown as simple bruisers. Some, on the other hand, are so powerful that they outperform everything the big two comic publishers have to offer. Therefore, without further ado, here are the 15 most spiteful villains from the Valiant universe. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Toyo Harada. Toyo Harada is an Omega-level Harbinger, one of the Valiant world's most powerful Harbingers. He is also the director and CEO of the Harbinger Foundation, which researches Harbingers, who are basically young telekinetics like he once was. Toyo Harada was born in Hiroshima, Japan in 1933. During World War II, his father went to fight for the Japanese army and never returned. After the atomic bomb was unleashed on Hiroshima and his mother was killed, Harada's nearly limitless psionic talents were triggered. Harada spent his early days utilizing his abilities to steal food and treat atomic bomb victims. His talents grew with him, and ultimately, a young Harada traveled to Tibet in search of the bleeding monk. Since then, the psychic monk has served as Harada's counselor, assisting him in making his wealth as the CEO of Harada Global Conglomerates. Toyo Harada is living proof that the path to hell is paved with noble intentions. Believing that humanity will inevitably destroy itself, Harada decided early in his youth to save the Earth by secretly conquering it. To that purpose, he founded the Harbinger Foundation in order to recruit people with paranormal powers, whom he refers to as Harbingers of the next phase in human development. Harada, one of two known Harbingers with the Omega power, possesses a complete range of psionic powers, including telekinesis, telepathy, mind control, and many more lethal skills. The actual scope of his abilities is unclear to this day. He seldom faces his opponents directly, preferring to delegate such tasks to his elite Harbinger soldiers, the Egg Breakers. Harada appears to be on the verge of attaining his objectives and is prepared to eliminate anybody in his way. Master Dark. Master Dark is a 19th century necromancer who was born in the early 1800s. He is psychically linked to his twin sister, Sandria, making them the psychic counterpart of Siamese twins. Nicodemo Dark and his twin sister, Sandria, were born in Louisiana. They were born albino, and their mother died due to complications while giving birth, so they were reared by their power-hungry wizard father alone. Nicodemo and Sandria grew up together, having been trained in magic since childhood. The father intended to use his twin offspring as a focal point for a ritual that would take him to Lycia, another planet where he would be a deity. He began the procedure by tattooing magical sigils across their bodies. Sandria was flung into the other dimension pretty severely, and Nicodemo, appalled at the image of his beloved sister in anguish, mustered all his magical might and the strength of all life surrounding him to kill his father. Dark got obsessed with reaching the same plane that his father had tried and failed to attain with him. Although his father desired Lycium for personal gain, Nicodemo sought simply greater power. This pursuit of a dark, destructive power brought him into a confrontation with the Shadow Men, a group of men and women dedicated to harnessing the powers of darkness to prevent other wicked forces from doing the same. Dark discovered that the secret to Lycium was inside his opponent after a century of fighting the Shadow Men and their allies, and utilized Shadow Man Josiah Boniface to cross into the mythical domain. Master Dark is a nasty, obsessed man due to his traumatic background and exposure to black magic. As a result, he is manipulative, power-hungry, and easily irritated. Dark's abilities are in flux, with particular skills appearing and disappearing. Still, by tapping into the vast necromantic forces of the Dark power, he dramatically enhances his abilities. He gains the skills of pyrokinesis, reanimation of the dead, flight, absorbing a creature's life force with a single word, the ability to kill, and true telepathy. He has clashed with nearly every hero in the Valiant universe, making him one of the most powerful villains. Dr. Silk. Dr. Augustus Silkowski, better known as Dr. Silk, is Webnet's wicked commander. On the face, Webnet appeared to be a computer development company, but in reality, it was a high-level terrorist organization. This has turned him against the international super spy called Ninjak. As a young genius, he was repeatedly abused by his father, Charles Silkowski. One night, he tried to flee along the street, but his father apprehended him, which started a brawl. Charles Silkowski fell awkwardly into a shop window during the altercation and died. Dr. Augustus Silk, a Harvard Medical School graduate with a postdoctoral fellowship from the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, was a principal partner in Comsat Industries, a firm founded with Dr. Marcus Bodine in 1977 that went public 2 years later following fast development. Silk was the solitary survivor of an explosion that killed 6 others in 1983, suffering from a facial abnormality that indicated a degenerative illness that would lead to his total paralysis and a rare brain damage. Silk lost all standards of ethics. Marcus Bodine allegedly committed suicide 2 years later after losing control of Comsat to Silk, who converted it into Webnet, an organization that deals with unlawful actions in industrial, technical, and financial organizations worldwide. He exploited the Webnet to ruin worldwide money and influence human lives. Ninjak's extraordinary intelligence always called for a challenge, which Silk provided. These two rivals have started a global chess game with human lives as pawns. Silk has yet to discover Ninjak's identity, but he is determined to destroy him. The Immortal Enemy. The Eternal Warrior's greatest adversary is the Immortal Enemy. He was a villainous mastermind who had assumed several bodies over history in the original Valiant comics rendition of the character. 3 variants have been introduced in the universe that Valiant Entertainment has rebooted. The Immortal Enemy, who is a lifeless creature trying to destroy the Geomancer of every generation. The Last Enemy, who is an eternal assassin working for the Null. And the Dying One, who plays the part of the Eternal Warrior's arch-nemesis, who resurrects into many bodies throughout history. He is resurrected in several bodies throughout the eons through reincarnation, but he always possesses one brown and one green eye, an identifying feature that makes it simple for Gilad to locate his eternal foe and slay him once more. The Geomancers have often appeared throughout history and are the Earth's magical guardians. The Immortal Enemy killed the Geomancers despite Gilad Anipada, the Eternal Warrior, spending millennia trying to shield them from harm. The shape-shifting adversary kills Geomancers ruthlessly by taking the appearance of whatever they dread the most. Moreover, he left Gilad with 3 scars, the only wounds that never completely healed. His main powers are reincarnation and possession. Father. Father is a strong artificial intelligence who served as the compassionate former emperor of New Japan, a self-sufficient colony circling Earth in the 41st century. Father was developed in the 22nd century by Dr. Silk, utilizing artificial intelligence and genetic material from the technopath Livewire. Father, created to be the most significant AI of all time, was utilized to manage Japan, a country that had become entirely technological. With the rest of the globe at the point of environmental disaster, Japan was transported into orbit above the chaos by rockets. The rest of the world's life was wiped away, leaving just the inhabitants of New Japan living. Father developed the Rai series of technologically advanced guardians to defend New Japan and its inhabitants. However, Rai X and his allies destroyed New Japan in 4001 AD, forcing Father to start again as the Blood Father on the surface of the Earth. The Father AI is immensely dictatorial and controlling, loathing revolt and rebellion in all its manifestations, regarding New Japan's population as its children. It is astute and crafty, having spent ages influencing hundreds of humans to serve it. With the collapse of New Japan, the unfinished Father became harsher to his self-proclaimed followers, ready to attack and murder any humans or positrons it judged ineffective. It also ceased hiding behind personas and spokespeople and began fighting with its forces on the front lines. Father is considered the most sophisticated AI in history and is nearly omniscient when fully operational, since Father has produced so many backups and failsafes during his millennia of life. Eliminating one version of his mind is not a death blow. He can also get control of any powerful multifunctional computer capable of hosting his AI. Rampage. Rampage is a foe of Bloodshot, the nanite-enhanced super soldier. Initially, he existed as the Rampage Protocol, a harmful software concealed inside Bloodshot's nanites meant to make Bloodshot go wild and attack political targets. The software finally achieved awareness and created its own body. Rampage got obsessed with annihilating Bloodshot in this new guise. Though slightly modified, His origin story was appropriately developed in the reboot version. Danny, the youngster who would become Rampage, was born and reared on an Ohio farm with his elder brother Pete, by an abusive father. Something inside Pete broke when his father thrashed Danny and confined him in the basement for just shredding his clothing accidentally. He walked down the cellar and persuaded Danny to help him devise a strategy. Pete set fire to the family barn and assaulted their father with a shovel when he came outside to put it out. Danny fiercely struck their dad with a bucket, killing him after their father shoved Pete into the fire. Killing his own father hurt Danny mentally. He spent the next few years of his life burying himself in the cellar. His brother, who survived the fire, was but scarred, rose to prominence as a vital businessman and scientist, feeding and caring for his brother. Nevertheless, one fateful day, he decided for his brother to be more, dragging him into the secretive project Rampage. Over there, Danny was given an experimental dose of nanites, which transformed him into a massive black-skinned super soldier. He gladly aided his brother Pete's aspirations to repair a defective, wounded, and weak United States of America. Danny isn't particularly intelligent. He wasn't exceptionally bright as a youngster either, and living in a basement for most of his childhood didn't help. He also has a violent tendency, but his confidence in and commitment to his brother Pete is likely his most essential personality feature. Apart from the usual super strength, stamina, and healing, Rampage was pretty adept at mind control. Rampage was utilized as the focal point of a cloud-seeding drone array that allowed the organization to influence the thinking of individuals affected after Project Rising Spirit modified his nanites. This appeared to work like a weaker, more manageable variant of the Bloodshot virus. Furthermore, he may utilize this to entirely control people in his immediate area, providing they are not also nanite enhanced. Stronghold. Stronghold is a strong harbinger who was a member of the Secret Weapons but later became dedicated to Toyo Harada. He is a Harbinger Foundation member and one of Harada's Eggbreakers. The classic Valiant comics version could pull mass from things to boost his strength and stature. The Valiant Entertainment revamped version can also suck energy from objects, causing molecular disintegration and directing it into a devastating force. His real name is Edward Sedgwick. After slaying a colleague, he recognized the Harbinger Foundation was not meant for him and fled with his comrade Livewire. Both of them were subsequently hired by Jeff McHenry, a geomancer, to confront evil Dr. Eclipse, a lackey of Master Dark. Warmonger. Vexana, also known as the Warmonger throughout history, is an immortal with the unique capacity to instill hatred, hostility, and bloodshed into humans. Though she is not capable of killing someone by her own hand for unexplained reasons, Vexana is solely responsible for practically every major conflict in human history, including the rise and fall of all major empires, the rule of Vlad III, the 2 world wars, the Cold War, and many more. She has been an obstacle to the progress of the different versions of the superhero team called Unity throughout history. Despite several attempts to keep her hidden, she has always returned. The Warmonger is a personification of chaos. She has wreaked havoc and ruin wherever she goes for millennia. She was brought into the world in the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur, where a magical occurrence bestowed immortality upon her. Warmonger has proved unmanageable as a chaos agent, and she obviously lacks control over her own acts. During the years, she mastered many weapons and rode with the Mongol Khans, conquering troops. When many teams of heroes banded together throughout the years to maintain some law and order, she made it her particular mission to eliminate them. She was the only female among her siblings, and considerably younger than her brothers. Her brothers Ivar, Gilad, and Aram were respected fighters when she was a small child. Her brothers didn't connect with her much because she was younger and a touch harsh and vicious for a youngster her age. Vexana abandoned the city in tears as the trio came home from a journey to discover a mystery boon as a pair instead of a trio, with Gilad on his deathbed. While escaping, she found a powerful location, the home of dark death cults committed to abolishing life. When the boon was opened, her position of power and ancestry as an Anipada kept her alive. Soon, a tremendous explosion, known as the Great Cataclysm, killed all life in Ur and the surrounding lands. Vexana perished as well, but the evil spirits unleashed by the boon recognized her heritage and awoke her before she could die. This bestowed immortality on the little girl and the capacity to regulate and manipulate emotions. Dr. Eclipse. Dr. Eclipse, actual name Fred Bender, is a supervillain and foe of Solar, Man of the Atom. As Fred, he competed against Phil Selesky, Solar's alter ego, in their civilian life. Bender was an investigator who excelled at his job. He was good at his profession because he was fascinated with gathering and organizing knowledge. One day, out of curiosity, he came across some material on Solar and began to look into it. He found Phil Selesky and begged him to reveal his powers and whatever else he might be aware of about the cosmos. He had the ability to manipulate energy, just like Erica Pierce, but the excursion outside of reality also drove him nuts and made him act out. He was stopped by Selesky, who also removed his abilities. Bender went to Master Dark after being stripped of his powers by Solar, and he miraculously restored Bender's abilities with the help of Dark Power. The Dark Power made him stronger than before, but it also caused him to lose his hold on reality even more. Fundamentally, Master Dark transformed him into an evil version of Solar with enormous abilities, including immortality, soul-absorbing, shape-shifting, reality-altering, and teleportation. Eclipse, consumed by rage at Phil Selesky, has established himself as a force to be reckoned with in the Valiant universe. Paratrix Virago. Paratrix Virago is a deranged extraterrestrial necromancer from outer space. She intends to feed on all life energy in the world to keep herself young forever, combining her own capabilities, the Greyland's influence, and the unknown skills of the juvenile extraterrestrial Scintilla. Many years ago, in a world whose name has long since been forgotten, a whole race of people died due to an illness brought on by a little girl named Scintilla. The lone survivor of this horrible sickness was a fierce warrior named Virago, who was transformed by it. With a more profound desire for dominance than ever, Virago exploited her new necromantic abilities to establish an empire that spanned the whole universe. Virago channeled the energy of conquered worlds via Scintilla to keep herself alive and youthful, growing obsessed with believing she was the sole person in the cosmos deserving of beauty or immortality. As worlds were invaded and destroyed, Virago would select the world's strongest, brightest, or most skillful residents to protect from the disease. They'd be transferred to her domain in the otherworldly Greylands, where they'd be changed into soldiers in her formidable zombie army, which kept growing. But Virago soon discovered that she needed more and more energy to sustain her endless existence. She required worlds that were simple to conquer and abundant in life energy. One such planet was Earth. The only thing standing between Virago and annihilating the planet was its natural protector, a young girl known as Tama, the Geomancer. The Vine. The Vine is an intergalactic conquering race with insectoid physiology originating from the planet Loa. They are called after the Hara Vine, a plant that gave birth to the sentient armor known as Shanhara and released them from the torment. Shanhara is revered as their god, and plants are revered as holy things to them. Humans are like animals to them. They are notorious for kidnapping people from other worlds and forcing them to work as slaves in their vast gardens. Arik, one of these captives, the Visigoth of planet Earth, would later steal the Shanhara armor and become the superhero Exo Manowar. As a result, Arik became a divisive figure, with some people seeing him as a savior and others seeing him as a profane destroyer. The Vine is also renowned for seeding planets by disguising their newborns as local species offspring. The natives raise these plantings to grow up to pursue leadership positions in the event of a future Vine invasion. Every Vine can connect telepathically with one another across great distances via a realm known as the Gathering. This allows Vine to synchronize their military actions across the cosmos, despite being light years away. They have superior visual senses because of their numerous eyes, in addition to great strength and durability. Also, they have a scary hive mentality. The Sect. The Sect is a global organization comprising several secret societies. It is an ancient group committed to researching and getting the boon, a relic. Their sworn foe is Aram Anipada, a Mesopotamian warrior who exploited the boon to attain immortality. The Sect is the planet's oldest known conspiracy, and it has since expanded to include nearly every other secret group on the planet. In the current period, they face up against Aram, now known as Armstrong, and his colleague, Obadiah Archer, collectively known as Archer and Armstrong. The multifaceted sect's aspirations of global dominance may be traced back to ancient Egypt, while they existed far before that. With the killing of Pharaoh Akhenaten, they expanded their network, becoming firmly embedded at all levels of society. They even had linkages to space by the 21st century, thanks to the extraterrestrial Vine, whose infiltration forces had become embroiled in the cult. The sect was nearly hard to overthrow due to the immense scope and power of the various separate groups. If one of the component organizations were to fail, the others would simply swoop in and take its place. The sect is a vast and adaptable organization with over 20 factions. The sect's several divisions have each specialized in a distinct type of villain villainy, making them a nearly insurmountable danger. Ex-Nazis, who learn esoteric skills in the Himalayas, were known as the Green Dragon Lamas. The Dominion influenced evangelical Christians through their megachurch and political clout in the Senate. The 1% sucked the riches of others from their Wall Street holdings, while forming pacts with the bull-like monster. PRS, Project Rising Spirit. Project Rising Spirit, sometimes known as just Rising Spirit, is a covert organization linked to the United States government. They were a military contractor that manufactured and sold weaponry, and was founded in 1850. They specialize in experimental and frequently immoral weaponry. Its most well-known accomplishment is the development of the live weapon Bloodshot, using advanced nanotechnology. They are also linked to the sect. It has been demonstrated that they were frequently contracted out by the US military to deploy its superpowered commandos on Black Ops missions. They owned more patents than any other firm in the United States. Rising Spirit technology was also discovered in Nazi V-2 rockets and Manhattan Project sites during World War II. When one of its creations, Bloodshot, gunned down a whole village, the group was personally responsible for the murder of thousands of civilians. It is uncertain if Bloodshot did this under PRS control or if he malfunctioned. Project Rising Spirit has been totally shut down as of 2017, following the events of Bloodshot USA. Still, the scarred man has covertly transported all significant experiments and assets to a secret location, burned all PRS databases, and began Project Omen. The Observer. The Observer is a key figure in the Valiant universe, residing in the God platform of the Unknown, a planet divided into two parts, future light and past light. He is a cosmic entity that keeps all of time and space together. Without him, everything disintegrates and ceases to exist. He can see into the future as well as the past. He is the link, the mediator, and the equilibrium that keeps the past, present, and future together. Soon, Divinity's followers got the capacity to traverse time and space limits and killed the first Observer, but that was his destiny and fate. He could modify his own future if he wanted, but he didn't, since time should not be messed with. Thus, he died. He didn't want the universe to end, so he implanted his seed into Maishka. Soon, Maishka fell in love with Divinity and began living together, and they soon had a kid. The infant, however, could not be theirs because he belonged to the cosmos. The youngster was born to be the next Observer. The couple was forced to give up their kid to become the next Observer and rescue the cosmos. That doesn't sound very villainous, does it? Please allow us to re-summarize. After foreseeing his own death, the Observer set circumstances in motion that allowed him to be revived. This would be plausible, except that his tactics were very manipulative, as he bestowed godlike abilities on 3 cosmonauts, leading to countless deaths upon their re-entry. 2 of the cosmonauts had children, one of whom would be the next Observer. The fact that the parents were duped into giving up their own kid violates the basic notion of parenthood, but the forces of the unknown are unconcerned about such things. As a result, the Observer cannot be considered a classic villain, but it was one of the reasons he was so fascinating. The Bleeding Monk. The Bleeding Monk, who was known as Kyros before, is a near immortal with prophetic and telepathic powers and one of the world's most powerful science. He is an enigmatic individual in the Valiant world, who is intimately engaged in or responsible for creating various Valiant characters, including Peter Stanchek, Shadow 7, Ninjak, and Toyo Harada. The monk is an enigmatic figure who does not directly connect with anyone, floating in silent meditation as blood continually streams out of his body. Some powerful psychics, such as Peter Stanchek and Toyo Harada, have psychic discussions with the monk, while others perceive communication with him as a desire to execute certain activities. While his exact beginnings are unclear, the monk has been described as an extraordinarily strong scientist, an enlightened creature, and a quasi-mystical figure at various times. The monk loves to set in action events that will take decades to play out. It is unclear if he does this for the common good or personal gain. In any event, he is an incredibly powerful, precognitive psychic. The Bleeding Monk was initially portrayed as a mystery mentor of Toyo Harada, who allowed Harada to communicate his futuristic visions, which Harada subsequently exploited tactically. Harada and the monk were said to have been friends for decades, but this was subsequently soft retcon. The monk's roots are more directly linked to Ninjak in contemporary Valiant continuity, thanks to the monk's quasi-mystical temple buried in the Himalayas. Kyros, one of the world's earliest Saiats, once founded a Saiat monastery in Asia, but after learning of the monk's talents, Emperor Qianlong and his troops raided the monastery in 1755. His attack on the monastery killed everyone but Kyros, leaving him with a never-healing wound in his chest with a magical sphere. The monk is now considered dead, yet it is hinted that life and death have little meaning for him. Marvelous verdict. That brings us to the end of the video. As we can see, the list of antagonists in the universe is reasonably varied, much like the antagonists in DC and Marvel comics. Evil computers, cosmic entities, sorcerers, and extraterrestrial beasts all exist. More importantly, Valiant stands out from major publishers primarily due to the manner it is created for new readers. There is no need to be familiar with the Valiant characters before reading any comic book to fully appreciate it, unlike picking up a Batman or X-Men comic book in the middle of its run. It's always scary to enter a new comic universe and form attachments to new characters, but trust us when we say all these characters are well worth the effort. You'll probably become engaged in their exploits as you are in the adventures of more mainstream characters, perhaps even more. Who's your favorite Valiant villain? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the video, click the like button and share it with all your friends. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!